I took a little bit of a hiatus with this 1995 Crown Victoria to help a friend out with his 91 Chevy S10, and he taught me a few things and I taught him a few things, and that's pretty much what this is all about. Just kind of sharing knowledge and providing tips and sharing experiences with the various problems that we would have with different kinds of vehicles, and passing that along. You can see some of those videos on my channel. Those are the most recent ones where we did the brake job and headlight replacements and all those kinds of things. And in the spirit of that, I'm getting back to this Crown Victoria, and I'm putting the IP back together. And I've got the instrument cluster put in. And just wanted to give you guys some pointers. For example, this is the original instrument cluster with the car. I went ahead and went back in with the original gauge set. So it's got the 140,000 mile speedometer versus the 13,000 mile speedometer from the wrecked car in front of me. As you might have seen in several videos back, I had this entire cluster taken apart down to where the lights were so I could start replacing lights that I thought were either burned out or on the way to being burned out and not putting out enough light. And you might remember that's when I learned that the check engine light over here was likely illuminated when the original owner was driving this car, which could have been some hints as to why the engine failed. So I went ahead and replaced that light and the light down here for the gear shift selector, and all the other lights are the same. All the gauges are cleaned up and everything. One of the things I hate is having all kinds of cigarette ash and dust and dirt behind the glass here. Usually it kind of makes its way in through the gap right here between the trip odometer reset button and the plexiglass here. Just kind of gets dirty over time. So that's actually looking like new now. And the only thing I changed on it was the glass here. This glass is actually from the other instrument cluster. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what happened, but as you can see, I tried to clean this glass as much as I could, or as best as I could, and it's just permanently marred somehow. This material is actually Lexan, which is the same kind of material that's on the tail lights and parking light lenses and things. It's actually very easily scratched. And it looks like they may have gotten brake cleaner on here or some kind of solvent on here. Not sure what it was. I had the glass taken off. I was cleaning both sides of it with Glass Plus, and it just would not come off. So no big deal. I just basically swapped lenses, and now I have a nice new looking instrument cluster. Well, almost. You can tell that since this car basically has never been garaged, unlike the wrecked car, which was garaged all its life, it's got some sun damage, and you can see that the gauges are basically, they're not orange anymore, they're bleached white. The dial pointers or gauge needles are bleached white, unlike the gauges from the other instrument cluster, which hopefully you can see are kind of a fluorescent orange. But that's not really too big of a deal. I kind of like the white pointers, actually. Doesn't look too bad, and believe it or not, the gauges on the F250 I've got come white from the factory, so that slight little problem there is not really a problem to me. As long as the gauges work, they still look nice. And now to sort of get to the point of the video, as I'm putting this thing back in, I'm not sure if any of you guys out there have any problems with the gear selector not reading accurately what gear you're in. There's actually a cable that controls that, which is down here, that you can that gets pulled like this when you change gears, and as I move it, you can see it move like this, and it's held on there with a rather large or long shaft. So how that's installed is you can kind of see it sticking out here. Goes behind the wiring harness for the multifunction switch, and it kind of goes under here like that, and then it wraps around and goes up in here. where you've got this little adjuster wheel right there. And then the other end of it sticks up through here and rests on the gear selector lever right here. And so by turning this wheel back and forth, you can kind of see the gear selector pointer moving back and forth as I move it. So it looks like on this car right about there is good. It's not exactly lined up with the P, but as I change gears, it's let me tweak it just a little bit more down here. There we go. That's dead on right there. As I change gears and go through all the gears, it's pretty much dead on. I hate it when you're driving a car and instead of you're going down the road, instead of being in D, you're in neutral or 2 or something like that. It just drives me crazy. And there's one right there. Almost, that's just really dead on. You can even see the one there. And then we'll go back to park. And that's good enough right there. That's just about as good as it's going to get. I don't really care how lined up it is when it's in park. I just care how it looks when it's in gear and going down the road. So I just wanted to pause a little bit. I'm trying to get the IP all cleaned out of all the cigarette ash and animal hair and everything else. This guy must have had a dog in here that was, or a cat or something that was just living in here. There's just tons of hair. So I'm cleaning everything out, getting rid of all these stains down in there from spilt soda and coffee. Here's another good example. Just trying to clean it up before I put the trim back on, and especially the radio. But just wanted to pause a little bit and show you guys that trick, that if you've got a Crown Victoria, Lincoln Town Car, or Mercury Marquis, and your gear selector indicator is appears to be out of adjustment, that's a very easy thing to do by just turning that wheel like this. Getting the panel off to access it is not really as easy as it seems. This car continues to impress me with how well it's made. You've got this plastic trim panel, which you would think just fits under here, like that. Once you remove that though, you then have this thick metal panel held on by no less than 5 bolts that you have to remove as well. Pretty thick. And then you have access to the lower part of the steering column to access that cable. So a very well made car. It took wasn't hard to get off, but just was impressive how it's kind of like double layered. You take off the plastic trim, then you got this big thick metal piece that goes all up under here for extra support and everything. So car is very well made, and hopefully will still be well made after I get done with it. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and give you a few pointers in case your gear selector indicator is a little bit out of adjustment.